My dad landed in Florence, where my mom is from. My mom was raised in Florence, grew up in Florence all her life, very Italian young woman of the 1960s. And at a party they met, and my mom was not supposed to be at that party either, because my grandfather was a very strict Italian man. And so they met at this party, fell in love, and I say the rest is history because I do go into details in the book, but basically their decision was to me and my dad to finish his education, then go back to Saudi Arabia and basically start a family there. So when I was growing up in the 1970s, I was a young child. And even though I was feeling like there was something weird and odd and different about my life and about my upbringing, I could tell my mom did not belong to the area like most of the other women. I could tell, and my mom learned how to speak fluent Arabic, by the way, but I could tell that when she spoke Arabic, she didn't sound like all the other women. And my dad was fluent in Italian. At home, we spoke Italian, but outside of the home, obviously, it was mostly Arabic. And I knew there was something different about us. My parents never brought it up. They never talked about it. They never sat us down. It was just who we were. And we were also in a pretty solid group and community of other families like us, a lot of Saudi dads married to Italian moms. And so we had our little community as well. Since most of us were far away from our Italian families, our grandparents, our aunts, our uncles, our cousins. And so this is not just the culture and the tradition, but the law as well, because the law does say that a woman's value is that of half of a man. And this is Islamic law according to the interpretation of the region. And this is a lot of Islamic countries that, by law, a woman in an inheritance takes half of what a man gets. That if there was a crime and there was a witness, one man is the value of two women. So and this was said to us just very casually. This is just how it is. It wasn't like I'm schooling you and teaching you, or can you imagine this is how it is? It was just like, this is, and everyone around me seemed to be okay with it. I had a really hard time processing that. Get home, my mom says to my dad, it's time, May was my sister's May, and, they told her she has to come veiled. And my dad goes, okay, well, we'll go shopping for the abaya, which is the cape, and the veil, and we'll get one for Jasmine too. And I was like, whoa, why? And he's like, well, you can't go around the older sister not covered when your younger sister has to cover. And so that was kind of the start of like, oh, I guess my childhood is over. I guess now I am officially becoming invisible. Yes. And I will say that from the age of probably about 12, 13, that's, again, when I was growing up, that's all girls talked about, was just when the moment would come that the right, person would come and propose. And again, these are arranged marriages also for the most part. Those who were not, the marriages that were not arranged were definitely secretly set up, if you will. But traditionally, marriages are arranged for the most part between families. The fact that every summer we would go to Italy and see boys and see life, open and free, still very, very on a very short leash next to our dad or our brother or, our mom. It wasn't like I was dating in Italy or running around with boys or anything like that. It was definitely very watched, but I could see a very different life. Of course, we watched American movies, we watched TV shows, all of that. So I knew there was a world out there that looked a certain way. Why would God show you all these wonderful things and then take them away from you? From women, it was pretty much all of it. From men, it was like some of it. Because I will also say that, yes, a lot of this was hard on women, but on men too, because this is not a normal life for men either, even though they had the freedoms and, all and the power and all of that. But for women, especially in the hottest desert of the world, to be covered from head to toe just made no sense. Sudden, I would see some of my friends grabbing the Quran with tissues because they couldn't touch the Quran. And we immediately know, oh, she's on her period. Girls went to weddings and funerals with their moms and their aunties and, and their family and their friends so that they could be seen by a prowling potential future mother-in-law or older sister, or because that's where they were looking for girls for. I felt the pressure and put the pressure upon myself to find that man that I was going to then allow to come knocking at my door, because he had to meet a standard that I had, which was he had to be modern. He had to be open-minded somewhat. He had to have a somewhat similar approach to how my family views the world. I could not marry a traditional man that then expected me to just be, barefoot and pregnant at home or at his service, just being the wife. And he had just come back to Saudi Arabia after living in the US. His dad was a diplomat, his mom, both his parents Saudi. He was born in the US. And he grew up there till he was about 13. And now we're 16, 17. So he had just come back. And so when she met him, she was like, oh my gosh, I think this is the right person for Jasmine. Of course, when I met him, it was fine. I did not fall madly in love, but I thought to myself, this has to be the kind of man I have to end up with. Mom came and spoke to my mom. His dad came and officially proposed. We had our little formal engagement. We were chaperoned when we were together. We did the milka, that ownership ceremony where I wasn't even involved, but the men were. And it's hard because then there's the dowry involved. So it's almost like you're purchasing the girl. And my dad just did not like and conform to that. It was really hard for him. I was his first daughter getting married. And so I know it was emotional for him, but it had to be done. And so I stayed in that marriage for 6 years. We traveled a lot, but I knew I did not want to have a child with him because I knew he was probably not going to be the man that I was going to be with the rest of my life. Forcefully, wanted a divorce. And then in the meantime, I started plotting my infamous escape. That's how that marriage started falling apart. It was obvious to both of us. We just started to have very, very different goals. We recognized that we should have probably just dated and been probably girlfriend and boyfriend for a few years. A wonderful first relationship. He was a good man. He was a kind man. But our priorities had shifted completely. Oh, wow. Yeah. I 25 years ago, and still every time I relive that moment, it's the anxieties in my body still. It never goes away, no matter how much therapy and EMDR and all that good meditation, all that good stuff you do. That moment will never, ever leave my body because I've watched movies, I've watched videos, I've read stories, I've heard about that crucial moment where that woman is in that line, ready to get on the plane. And it's a matter of you're caught or you're free. And I was standing to wait to get through that moment. And keep in mind, in the airports, again, I don't know what it's like now, but when I was there, the airport was all the TSA folks were men. And then there was a room that they would pull all women to where you would be inspected by women agents. Everything is segregated. And so you would walk into a room and they touch you from head to toe. And you can spot them a mile away because they have long beards. They wear the headdress, they wear their cape, which is a mishlah, and the dress that they wear, what men, Saudi men or Arab men wear, it's called a thobe, goes down to your ankle, but they wear it above the ankle because they refer to that as modesty. No, so in Italy, I never dressed like that. I was always with my Italian family. I always wore, jeans and t-shirts. And in Italy, I never had to be veiled. My dad, thankfully, was not an extremist. So in Italy, we dressed normal. Now, we dressed modest. I couldn't wear shorts or, tank tops or bikinis or anything like that. But, I was dressed Western. So embarrassed to tell people what I came from, what my life was like, the fact that I ran away. Like, I just wanted to be normal to my identity as an Arab, as a Middle Easterner, as a, raised Muslim was now the greatest target in the country because 9/11 just put a whole new process into play and a different spotlight on the entire region and people from that region. And so I've not gone back to the region at all. The family that who has come to visit me, I've seen. And for now, I mean, I've been in touch with most members of the family. I have not seen my dad. My dad passed away in 2018. I only saw him after that on FaceTime and Skype and things like that. But I never hugged him again after 1999, which of course is a deep pain. But I invited him many times. I would have loved for him to have come and, visited and met my children, his grandkids. And, my oldest son is not mine by birth, but essentially is the oldest grandchild in the family. And my first child by birth is also the oldest grandchild in the family. And my dad never got to meet them in person. So no, I did not go back. It took a little bit of time before we were able to really get to a good place. But now I'm very close to the members of my family who I'm close to. We're very close. And, we've all grown, we've all learned, we've all realized that the decision I made was not a selfish one. It was really even giving freedom to the family to break from the brainwashing of the system. Because we're not doing anything wrong. We are good people. We are educated people. We are, we have decent morals. And